was a friend of ours one day, says, I'm not praying to the Virgin Mary anymore. I am sick of praying to her. I have asked her 1,000 times for this favor, and it hasn't happened. I'm refusing. And my friend and I say, well, that'll show the Virgin Mary. That will show her. You know, I mean, this was very real. This is all very real. I mean, this is part of it. And so in the film, it goes off a little bit on the deep end, and that has a lot to do with seeing a lot of Italian films. But again, it's Italian. You see, Accattone, and they always talk about one incredible scene in Accattone where Pasolini's film, where character says to Accattone, and when Accattone stops being a pimp, he says to him, he said, today you'll sell your watch, tomorrow you'll sell your gold chain, and in a week you won't have eyes to cry with.
Quanto vuoi? Ho pagato 15.000, avevo metà a metà, 7.000. Oggi la vita mi sorride, vi voglio fare pure a voi. Approfittate. Accattù, senti quello che ti dice il profeta. Oggi ti viene l'anello, domani la catenina, fra 7 giorni pure l'orologio e fra 77 giorni non ci avrai nemmeno gli occhi per piangere.
It's his poetry, you know. I mean, it's, and I say unto you, he says like the Bible, you won't have eyes to cry with. You know, and it's just like, this is what I heard growing up. I mean, I don't understand a lot of especially Ulysses, but then you do get to understand. I mean, I have a little reader's guide, and I'm getting through it a second time now, and you know. But there's no doubt that the irreverence of Buck Mulligan has a lot to do with because it wasn't just reverence. A lot of it was very irreverent about religion,
and also
cursing the saints and cursing God for the situation we're in and the people in the streets. It was a constant thing. It was very alive.
And this is James Joyce's idea of escaping the nets of religion, as he put it, that sense of your characters often trying to escape the neighbourhood or all that.
Absolutely.
Right, we've got another scene here from Mean Streets. It's the drunk scene. I just want to know how you did it.
Do that again.
He had a body brace under his jacket that you use for an Arriflex camera that the cameraman would put on him and then put the camera on the body brace. But instead, we put a board at the end of it and put the camera on the end of a board. There was a guy walking backwards holding it because the board would bounce, you see. So he was holding it this way.
Was the kind of a sandwich that you're supposed to take 2 pieces of bread and wish you had some meat.
And finally, when he went on the ground, it went sideways with him. See, and now he just like a ballet dancer. He eased himself down. Yeah, just eased himself down like that way, sideways with him.
It's the best. I think it's the best drunk scene in the movies.
Well, that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like some of those nights.
Then you made a film which seemed to take American cinema by the scruff of the neck, which was Taxi Driver. Can we look at the beginning and describe?
Yeah, Brian De Palma gave me the script, and he was a friend of Paul Schrader's, and I loved the script. Now, this wasn't in the script, this Coming Through the Smoke, but this is part of what I see in the city all the time, and it's one of the last shots we got on the movie, actually. And I decided that that's the way the picture should open. A couple of critics, one critic felt that it was, the metaphor is New York as hell. He said that's about as deep as the film gets. And I didn't mean it for that. I didn't mean it as a metaphor of any kind. It's just the image of this impending danger coming through the smoke, you know, but these are wise guys, what can you do? And this is sort of the eyes here has always reminded me of the look of the eyes of De Niro here, and also later on in the film he's looking in the mirror, in the rearview mirror, very much taken from the close-ups of eyes of Tales of Hoffman of Robert Helpman. And this image reminds me very much of the opening credits of The Small Back Room, a black and white film that Powell Pressburger did. These images were shot by David Nichols, a friend of mine. He went out and shot the second unit for me, and I designed the shots and asked him to do it a certain way. But in any event, here's the sort of Robert Helpman, Tales of Hoffman thing. But it isn't like you tell Robert De Niro, say, Bob, now think of Robert Helpman. You know, it has no idea,
What did you tell him there?
I just said just looking from left to right, and it was a matter of shooting at high speeds. And sometimes I'd shoot at 36, 32, or 48, or 54, and that sort of thing. So then I'd find the one that I like most, and use that. But it was pulling. They're like references in my mind. They aren't direct references to the movies that they're inspired, but they're inspired by. But they're kind of a fuel in a way that spurs my imagination to move a little further, you know.
This was a very low point in your life, wasn't it, Martin?
Yeah.
You did New York first, and then Raging Bull, which was done near here somewhere.
Yeah. When I was living in an apartment building right over there, we did Raging Bull across the street, edited right across the street over there in this place called the Galleria.
Was that a production office?
No, I was living there. We were editing the film out of there. I was editing on the 32nd floor. Huh. I didn't go out. Just lived there and worked at night, yes.
I recall every fall, every hook, every jab. The worst way a guy can get rid of his flab. As you know, my life wasn't drab. Though I'd rather hear you cheer when I delve into Shakespeare. A horse, my kingdom for a horse. I haven't had a winner in 6 months. Though I'm no Olivier, I would much rather...
It's very Italian, this movie, very like Italian cinema, this Raging Bull.
Why?
The black and white framing here, the light bulbs here, this, him here. You know, it's inspired by a lot of the Italian films of the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s.
That's entertainment.
Jake LaMotta and Jimmy Reeves in the Cleveland Arena. LaMotta is undefeated, but he's well behind on points.
And at the time of Raging Bull, you became more interested in film conservation and in collecting films, I think.
Yeah, sure enough, this little library we have inside of a few thousand tapes comes across, really importantly, not only for myself, but for lots of other filmmakers and writers, and people ask and call up if I have some obscure film. Just by chance, quite honestly, the only copy we have of The Passion of Joan of Arc, for example, was off Channel 13 here in New York 20 years ago, and it's still pretty good. Enough for us to make a copy to send to Sharon Stone to look at. You know what I'm saying? And she said it was great. You know, she didn't notice any blemish in it at all. It was fairly, it's not the film.
Was she playing Joan of Arc?
No, she was just interested in this in this Madame Falconetti idea, this whole idea, this extraordinary close-ups. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, between, I'm just saying her, but I know other people, Woody Allen, a number of people have asked for tapes of certain films, obscure things that you just can't get anymore. Yeah. Even though, you know, practically everything we think is on Laserdisc or video now or DVD, but it's not quite that. It isn't quite as. There's some very key films that are not, for example, Passion of Joan of Arc, and it's been restored too. There should be, you know, we should have a Laserdisc of it. That's not happening. So,
anyway, let's move on.
Yes, move on.
One of your best films of the 1990s was Goodfellas. Now, its style is completely different, isn't it? It's like twice as fast as New York. Why is it so fast, and where did you get the new style from?
The new style comes purely from, a pure state of excitement. Of how I first really heard, like the famous storytellers, where you would have storytellers go from village to village in the old world. Well, a lot of guys would stand on street corners, where I was from, and some were excellent storytellers, funny and self-deprecating, and conjure up images so quickly, you know. And they were tough kids, very tough people. And I'd always say, boy, imagine to make a film with that kind of speed and excitement and humor, which makes the way of life in the film at first extremely romantic and appealing. But then, of course, one begins to pay for it, and you begin to see what the lifestyle really is about. You know, just a dead end, a moral, spiritual dead end, you know. And in some cases, just death, totally death. I mean, people are killed, put away in jail. You know, it's just a joke. Life expectancy, the early 20s, late 20s, that sort of thing. But in any event, I'd also got a little annoyed by the aspect that was happening in American films, where things had to go faster and faster. I said, well, if you want it fast, I'll give it to you really fast. Let's go real fast on this one, and because that's the lifestyle. It is fast, and you suddenly, yes, true, you get stopped by a bullet or a bat in the head or a cop putting you in jail, in and out of jail.